requirements for colleges. A lot of colleges are adjusting those requirements, especially because our students were not able to take statewide testing this year. So looking at some of those requirements, looking at what type of incentives the colleges are offering as far as programs, or like after students graduate, what opportunities are available as far as internships and different things like that. So really the most important thing, as I mentioned, is keeping communication open, asking lots of questions, and keeping us updated on what steps they're on and what they're doing in the process so that we can help. The more information we have, the better service we can provide to our students and guide them, because it can be a very stressful time, especially.
Okay. I have one other question. So when students interact with their guidance counselor, a lot of times they don't know about resources that they can take advantage of. So what are some not fully utilized resources, or either not well-known resources that students can utilize when they work with their high school guidance counselor?
Sure. So this past year in our district, we are using a new tool called Naviance, and a lot of high schools are using the program. It's a place that houses everything that students could possibly need in their college search. There's information about applying to school. There are surveys that students can take if they're not sure what they want to study, to help guide them in a direction of possible career interests. There's also scholarship information on there. There's also this amazing tool called Road Trip Nation, where students can learn about different careers they want to explore, and people that are in those careers offer interviews, and they talk about their journey to getting to that position. They talk about what their jobs are like. So Naviance is a great tool. As I mentioned, students can apply directly from there. They can get letters of recommendation. It's like a one-stop shop for a lot of different resources. In addition to that, there are some other good resources like collegeboard.org, which has information about AP classes, AP testing, taking the SAT. There's also information, another really good website called mycollegeoptions.org. And the great thing about that website, again, it's mycollegeoptions.org. It's a great website too, because one, it's free, and both students and their parents can create accounts, and students can learn about different colleges, maybe because they weren't even thinking about applying for, that offer some of their same fields of study. There's scholarship information on there. So it's a ton of different resources, and it will even tell students like what the requirements are and where they are as far as those requirements are being met. So it's a really good resource for that. But what we try to do, I know, with my students, what I do is when I meet with them, like usually at the beginning of the year, and even before then, we talk with our students about what they want to study. We send resources out to them. So this past week, all of our juniors at Joliet West received information just about post-secondary planning. Like, these are some questions you might think about to ask your counselor, or these are some things that you can explore to help you, start digging into the process of applying for college. And we always post those resources on our school website. And as we get more information, we always push that out to students. We bother and stalk college representatives because they have tons of information. They're a great resource for us, so we pull those in as well. But yeah, definitely there are endless resources. But what we try to tell students is just to, focus on, one thing at a time. So if you're like, instead of like just tackling the entire process at one time, kind of breaking it down to steps. So the first step is just get your feet wet and kind of start looking at some college websites. So maybe go to Northern's website and check it out. Look at, different schools and just kind of explore. Look at the virtual tour. Look at what they're offering. Reach out to an admissions counselor. So we just want them to kind of start digging into it. And then we, encourage more steps, to apply and to learn about, requirements. But just taking that first step to even look at a college is a big thing for students. We just want them to even just get out there and just try that, definitely.
And that's really good. I think a lot of students get overwhelmed by the process as a whole. Mm-hmm. So really breaking it down in steps would really help them. And you mentioned contacting admissions directors at the university. So I'm going to take that segue into asking Quentin a question. So after students engage with their high school counselor and they get to the point where they are ready to connect with someone at a institution that they are interested in. Quentin, what are college admissions professionals looking for when they are selecting students for the upcoming class? And how can a student make sure that they stand out to admissions directors?
Certainly. Thank you for the question. Yvette certainly provided excellent information. I give a thumbs up to all those resources. I would add one more. College Greenlight is a fantastic organization, nonprofit, and they even include live free webinars on a range of topics, and a suite of colleges and universities from around the country help with those presentations and are accessible through College Greenlight.
College Greenlight?
College Greenlight.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But all your resources were accurate. So I give it 2 thumbs up on that. So I think it's really important, students, to know that we want to hear from you. We actually are really excited about the work that we do. We are doing the work we do because we love to interact with young adults who are rising and have questions and sometimes don't know what questions to ask, but they just want to have a conversation. So the first thing is, don't have any anxiety, any pause, any nerves, because we've all been there and we're in the work that we do because we want to help you through that process. College admission officers are here to not just serve you as it relates to getting to know the institution. We want to give you information that's useful. And my entire team, I tell them every single day, our duty is to be informative before anything else. Before I give you all the details about NIU, I want you to walk away with information that's accurate and information you can use, period, wherever you decide to go. So it does help to be researched right before you start those conversations. And when I say research, you want to just acquire whatever information you can. Just get the basic information. Where is the school? What do they offer, right? What are some of the things that we have listed on our website? Just to give you a foundation of knowledge. That way, we're able to spend that time going into depth. I would hate to spend the time only giving you information that you can get yourself online. I always want to go that level deeper. So I would just say, start with some research before you pick up the phone, before you send an email. And also, Crystal, it's important that we hear from the student directly. I'm sorry, we're not recruiting your parents or your grandmother or your aunt or your guardians or the folks that are home with you. We want to get to know you because you're going to be the person who lights up our community. So we can get all excited about your grandmother who's helping you with these conversations, but that's not the student who we want to be excited about. And ultimately, when you're applying to schools that are more selective, they can be advocates, they as in the admission counselors that get to know you, even through email or a brief telephone conversation. They can be the people who advocate for you for not only admission, but also for scholarship opportunities. So you're building a relationship even in the questions that you ask. And if you don't have questions, there's not a bad question, but we love to know that you've at least taken the opportunity to learn what you can from where you are. And then we can, add a level of depth and additional information. The last thing I would say, which is, I think, really, really critical, we want you to be confident even when you're exploring. Exploring is 1000% okay. We want you to ask questions and think outside of the box, but we want to interact with you. We want to interact with your genuine interests. So repeating what a friend is saying, or areas that friends are interested in, or repeating a major or a career path that maybe someone in your life wants for you, but that's not really who you are and that's not what you're excited about. That's not helpful in the conversation, because then we end up steering you down a path that you don't want to go down. So be authentic, be yourself, be unique. And even as you don't have all the answers and the rest of your 70, 80 years of life mapped out, we still want to talk with you and figure out how we can create that path together. So, you want to represent your individuality and yourself in all those conversations. Those are ways that you truly, truly stand out when you're interacting with us.
Awesome. And you briefly mentioned scholarships. So as we talk about this pandemic, it has had a financial effect on some families. And so there may be some students out there that now decide, because of the current state of my family's financial situation, I may not be able to go to college, or they may feel less confident about applying to college because they are not sure if it will be financially feasible. So although you specifically, work for Northern Illinois University, what advice would you give to students and their families who are contemplating whether or not they can afford college. And, you know, in that, can you talk a little bit about application fee waivers and scholarships and maybe some other resources?
Absolutely. So we're family. So just let me get just a little bit comfortable, okay? So first and foremost, let me tell you, you don't want to make these decisions in isolation. You don't want to make these decisions in your head before you actually engage and talk with the institutions. I can't tell you how many people miss opportunities because they've talked themselves out of it, right? Even with all the articles, even with all the things that are circulating in social media, all the barbershop and beauty salon talk, right? You want to talk directly with the institution, because what we're able to do, we can tell you definitively, you know, if there's scholarship opportunities for you, if there's financial aid that can help you cover your costs, if there's an application fee waiver. All those are things that are within our power to make that decision. And you don't want to talk yourself out of those opportunities. You want to actually have a conversation with us and engage. And we'll tell you with accuracy. The other piece of it is you want to do your work. I can't tell you how many students miss out on opportunities because they moved too slow or they didn't make any kind of movement. You don't want to make decisions paralyzed in fear. So that means you don't want to sit at home and not submit applications. You know, no institution is going to offer you scholarship money before you actually apply for admission. None of us are going to do that. We know nothing about you. So we're not going to say there's 50 grand sitting here waiting on you once you submit that application. We need you to submit that application. And that does two things. One, it gives us awareness that you're out there. And all the time, throughout the course of the year, my institution sends almost 2 million emails to prospective students. Almost 2 million emails. Every single week, we're pushing out information that you need. But if you're not on our websites filling out information request forms, if you don't submit an application and you let us know that you're serious about our institution, then we don't know to get that information to you because we're not aware of you even existing, right? So it's important to take those, to do that homework and take those first steps. If you're interested in a school, go to the website, fill out the information request form, because critical information is flying through our university to students' homes and their email boxes all the time. That also means check your email, students. When you fill out that email address, we're actually going to use it. So you might want to check it, right? Students are always saying, well, I didn't get that. Do you check your email? No, not really. Well, that's why you didn't get it, okay? But the other piece is, again, as your interest increases and you submit the application, there's very, very specific information that we point to admitted students and students who are at the application stage. So that's different than just filling out a form. When it comes to scholarships, deadlines, extensions of deadlines, we like to get that information in front of the students who it actually fits, right? The other piece of it is institutions are completely aware of the pandemic. We're in the pandemic also with you. So we have made a lot of preparations. We've spelled out policies. We've made a lot of adjustments to the things that we're doing. So I also want to give you the comfort of knowing that we're thinking about you this entire time. So you would absolutely be surprised some of the strategies that we put in place. And all you have to do is, again, make that first step. Let us know you're interested. And from that point, we could annoy you with all the things that are relevant for you to make those next steps easier. So I would absolutely encourage you to get the information from us directly, to make sure that you indicate your interest, progress to the point of application for the schools you're serious with, and then at the same time, make sure once you do those steps, you're regularly and frequently checking your email, because there's a lot of information, frankly, we have to put in email, okay?
Great, great. So we've heard from a high school counselor as well as the director of admissions at the university, but now I'm going to direct my next question to a current college student. So last but not least, Lauren, I am going to ask you about your current experience as you just completed your freshman year. So just give us some information on how your first year went.
My first year was amazing. It is an adjustment, especially being out of state and being used to like not being at home with like your parents. So I would say that's like the biggest adjustment. But overall, you meet so many amazing people. And then the different classroom setting from high school to college is different, but it's also a very good learning experience. And being at a school where you have people coming from different backgrounds, ethnicities in different states, like you're learning new things, you're meeting new people. So all in all, I had a great experience for my first year of college.
Great. So what are some things that you wish you had known before you know, made your first steps on campus as a freshman student? What do you wish, you know, someone had told you before your first day?
I wish somebody would have told me more about like the financial aid process and filling out FAFSA and also applying for scholarships. That was my biggest thing that I felt like I was living underneath a rock about, because school is expensive, especially going out of state. So I wish I did have more information about, you know, applying for my FAFSA on time and applying for scholarships and just getting that help financially.
And what did you find was the benefit of completing that FAFSA application on time?
I applying for this upcoming school year, I was able to do it on time, and like having the help of my mom help me out. It does make a huge difference. The earlier you get it in, the more information you have and more opportunities you have towards getting grants and scholarships. And I wish I had known about the scholarship apps that I have now. Like I applied for my scholarships through Scholarship Owl, and it gives you plenty of opportunities, plenty of money that like they only require a one-page essay for. So I wish I had known about all of that stuff before stepping.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get a list of resources from everybody and maybe make a little flyer to provide that information to everyone who's watching online so that they can have a list of those resources, because you guys are throwing out some really great resources that people can use in this process. And so, Lauren, you're attending Tennessee State University, which is a historically Black college university in Nashville, Tennessee. So did you particularly make a choice or make a decision to attend an HBCU, or did that just happen? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that was my intentions, to attend an HBCU. I actually went to the event that you guys host, the Historical Black College Fair. So I went there and like I got to meet a whole lot of different schools. I'm like, I really want to go to an HBCU because all of my life I've been to PWI, middle schools, high school. So it's just like I'm ready to be around more people that look like me, and then being able to learn more about my history, learning about the purpose of the HBCU really does enlighten you, especially with all the things that's going on now in the world, with all the police brutality. It really does make you feel better that you're surrounded by other people that look like you and also have the same goals as you, and everybody's striving to be better. So yeah, that helps a lot.
Okay. And I'll just share that you mentioned PWI, and for those that don't know, a PWI is predominantly white. Okay.
Okay.
So we will keep going, and I just want to open it up. If there is, actually, I want to go through, and if you can go through starting with Yvette and just kind of talk about those resources, because there's someone in our comments who had asked if we could restate the websites or the applications that would be a good resource to students. And I know you mentioned about 3.
Yes. So the resources that are really good, there's one called mycollegeoptions.org. That's a really great website that has, as I mentioned, it has information about scholarships. There's information about majors. It even breaks it down to tell students like different, let's say, for example, a student wants to major in business. It'll take business and it'll break it down into different subgroups, let students know, well, within business, these are some different careers, these are some different paths you can take if you study this field. So mycollegeoptions.org, again, that's good for college searching, scholarships, and SAT and ACT prep. Another good website is cappex.com, and that's CAPPEX.com. That website's great also too for scholarships, also college matching. And again, let students see where they are as far as requirements in their schools, so they can see like, you're here and here's the school you want to go to, so you're doing great. So it gives them that information as well too. And then Naviance is a program that students get through their high school. So I know Joliet Township High School, we utilize it. I believe most schools in the area utilize Naviance. And so that's something that students can use to do that as well. And then I also mentioned collegeboard.org, and that's for SAT testing, AP, And it just has information about like the benefits of taking AP classes and also preparing to take the SAT test. I know a lot of students are anxious about what that's going to look like. And so I think, yeah, those were the resources. And again, I know we talked a little bit about scholarships, and I just wanted to point something out too. There is another scholarship site called Raise Me. So it's raise.me. And that one is where students can put information about their achievements. So I'm on different clubs. This is my GPA. This is what I want to study. And students are able to get scholarships based on those things as well too. So there are a lot of different resources for that.
Okay. And Quentin, you mentioned one other one. Can you restate that one so that everybody can write it down or notate it?
Absolutely. So College Greenlight, coincidentally, Yvette, College Greenlight is the sister nonprofit-oriented organization to CapEx. So that's actually the same company. The College Greenlight side of it is that additional sort of nonprofit step. So spot on. Even with the College Board website, particularly, there's a Big Future component to the College Board site. So if you go to Big Future in the College Board website, that's what curates the content that you'll be looking for. As it relates to scholarship resources, there's a website called Fast Web. It's a fantastic resource. That's the other one I would throw out there. Yeah. The only other thing I would say, Crystal, don't pay for any services. No. There's any website that says it's a scholarship search website, they'll do the work for you, they have access to blah, 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 for it. Because there are plenty of free websites and resources out there for you. And again, in the work I do, and I direct my entire office to do the same, anytime a student is asking for information, we direct you to these same kind of websites that are outside of NIU in addition to what we have, because we want you to have good information. We know affordability is real. We're in this for the people in the beginning. So we want to make sure we'll give it to you for free. So again, all your resources out there, there are plenty of resources for college search, college match, detailing career pathways, and again, for a scholarship opportunity, and they are free. You don't have to pay a cent or a dime, and you don't have to pay an individual to do this for you. Again, I've been in college admissions for 16 years. And one of the reasons why I've stayed in this profession, myself and a lot of the close friends I've gathered, we take our time for things like this, right? We take our time to speak one-to-one with families. So if you ever pulled an admission officer to the side or called them or emailed them and you need help and guidance, we will guide you. And that's not just guiding you to our institution. We're passionate about education and we'll be helpful and expose you to other resources. So you do not have to pay for any of these resources or pay a person to do this for you.
Awesome. But one thing that Quinn brought that I just wanted to piggyback off that's really important is following the steps and making sure that the students are engaging in the applications and completing it. Because I know parents want to help and they're very supportive, which is great. But it's really important that students complete the steps. Like they're applying to college with the support of their family, with the support of their teachers, counselors, friends. But it's really important that they complete the steps and that they meet those deadlines. Because that's one of the big things that I know like students struggle with. They'll start the process and then they don't complete the process. And so, you know, and NIU is amazing. They'll contact us and say, hey, these like 40 kids applied, but they're missing things. So we'll check in with the students and say, hey, make sure you're getting these things submitted. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're reading the applications, following directions, and meeting deadlines. And filling out the information yourself with the support of people around you. That's really important because that stuff sometimes students, you know, don't always complete.
And Crystal, you did open this up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sitting up. Okay. So this is the other critical piece to what she talked about, and I'm offering new information. I won't repeat what's been said. The important thing to know about this process is students, you haven't gone through this experience before. Okay. Absolutely. It's going to be a discovery process, but this is also a critical step in your independence, excuse me. And for your parents and the folks that are supporting you, your aunts, uncles, your loved ones, your guardians, all of those people want to have that confidence to know that when you do go away to college, you acquire that skill set to manage things and take that leading role, right? You certainly have the support of a community of people around you, but you have to take those steps and be the leading role. And the same thing with the families. And I understand parents and family members being hands-on with their students because they want the best outcomes. But number one, I can always sniff out a parent who has their hand on the student's application. And it takes me 30 seconds, we always know. And we will even make admission decisions based off of that. When that essay sounds like a 40-year-old mature halfway down their career, I can sniff that out, and we will make admission decisions if we feel like that application doesn't represent the student. Many cases, selective schools will do that. So you won't always be able to sneak by doing pieces of that application, and you don't want to jeopardize the student. But at the same time, you want to be able to have confidence in seeing the in your young person, to see them show you that they're ready for that next step in independence. And like Lauren, again, I commend her. I've been to Tennessee State and Nashville, in addition to schools all over the country. And it takes a particular skill set to thrive when you are away from home. And this is that time to be able to observe that young person and young people, for you to demonstrate that you're ready to go through that path of discovery. You're ready to respond to unforeseen obstacles and barriers, that you're ready to navigate when things are unclear and uncertain, that you can pick up the phone and be resourceful, that you can ask questions and write down and document critical information, that you can bookmark websites and come back to them for the things that you need. That kind of thing is that level of independence that is critical to your future. So don't cheat yourself. I want you really to understand that you're capable. It is in you. That destiny and that future is there for you, but you're going to have to work for it. And it's a growing process. Mm-hmm. Absolutely a critical step in your growth. And I always would say to parents, especially when I was out doing presentations all the time, they don't let me out much anymore. So you all get all of me tonight, right? But when I was out doing a lot of presentations, I would tell parents and family members, if you don't trust that your student can fill out an information form or card, if you don't trust that they can fill out their own application, are you going to trust them spending 4 years away from you in college, making all kinds of decisions on a daily basis on their own? So this is that time to really watch those roles shift, and that student takes the step forward and the supporting family truly take the step back, get in the passenger seat, and be there to cheer them on and provide support where needed.
That is awesome. And yes, those are the skills that they will need to be successful as students as well, being able to read what is required, complete what is necessary, and meet those deadlines. We did have one question that I saw on Facebook. So I will say that besides changes in testing, what other major changes are you seeing that students need to be prepared for in this college admissions process? So I know, I believe in the spring, some of the standardized tests were canceled. Do you see any further challenges or cancellations with the standardized tests, and what other major changes should students be preparing for?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, we are watching a shift, and there's different things that happen in this world and in this life that signal to us that there is absolutely a changing of guards and a changing of positions and a shifting in the way we sort of navigate the world as we know it. And this pandemic has brought about a signal to us that things are making a transition, and it's going to be a permanent one. So standardized testing is that major piece. And I will have to toot our own horn. NIU moved and announced in January that we were going completely test blind. Some schools are test optional, where they will review your standardized test scores, maybe for admission if your GPA and other attributes don't meet their standards. Some schools will review your standardized test scores for merit scholarship or entrance into particular like honors programs, for example. NIU was the second institution out of 5,000 in this country, the second in January, that is, to go completely test blind, which means next year, not this fall, but next year, fall 2021. So when you're applying this year for next year, we're talking about this next year, you will be able to be admitted to NIU without your test score. You will receive merit scholarship without your test score. You can be admitted to our honors program without your test score. And we made that announcement in January. And since this pandemic, I have to just point it out and be honest, since this pandemic, you've seen several hundreds of schools announce that they're testing. But that doesn't mean that you can get merit scholarship actually without your test score. So you can be admitted to an institution, but the finances, the financial aid means based off your family income and what you need as it relates to affordability to an institution. And then the scholarship is the category of based off your grades, test scores, being an outstanding musician or in fine arts or being an athlete. The scholarship are those things that are earned, and you might be admitted to an institution and even get some financial aid, but it doesn't mean you're going to be eligible for scholarships. So the thing I want to illuminate is even with all these other schools going test optional right now, if that financial aid isn't enough, and if you're not an all-star athlete or all-star in the area of fine arts, you may not have everything you need to cover the cost, because scholarships can help cover those costs too. So at NIU specifically, you will be able to be admitted. Of course, you will qualify for financial aid based off of need, and that's through the FAFSA, but then we will also award merit scholarship only based on your high school GPA and not requiring a standardized test score. So that's something you want to be careful of, and that's a particular nuance that you have to be mindful of. I tell everyone that an admission letter and admittance to an institution does not mean you can come. It means you're admitted, but the financial aid, the scholarship, having those finances in order, that's what tells you which institutions you can actually attend. Mm-hmm. And I think Lauren was hinting at that. So that's something that's really important. And the last thing I'd say, and I give up the floor, also with institutions, you're hearing announcements of those that are offering in-person classes. I heard Crystal say earlier, you know, that remote learning, that online learning, that e-learning, however it's defined, you may be in a class, you may be doing some of it online, there might be a hybrid. As institutions are announcing that, students and families, you have to think about what that means for you and your learning style. For some people, they are more self-paced. They are the person that just needs a little direction, a little outline, a little instruction, a little bit of a timeline, and they can run on their own. And then there are those that depend a little bit more on that instructor to guide and give feedback and that reinforcement through the learning experience. So I would say to be careful as you're looking at institutions that are announcing whether they're offering face-to-face classes or a hybrid, or if they're online completely. Think about yourself as a student, not to tell yourself that you can't do it if it's completely online, but you have to do some soul searching, and you have to prepare yourself and say, if I'm going to be in an institution and these classes, at least for 1 year or one semester, whatever the case ends up being, are online, I have to be a bit more organized. I have to be a bit more in charge in pacing myself and not just depending on the instructors to do it, because this is your education and you certainly can't just show up on day one and expect that it's all going to work out with any kind of planning or effort. So that's the other thing I would say, Crystal, at this point.
Great. Yvette, did you have anything to add to that? Any changes that you're seeing that students may need to prepare for?
Well, I know a lot of schools are extending their deadlines, especially, you know, with what's happening. One thing I did, because I know a lot of students will ask this question, is when do we apply for college? So students that are planning to go into for the fall of 2021 would start applying for college in August, September of this year coming up. So that's when they would start completing applications. A few things that that we've gotten information, we've gotten updates from College Board regarding the SAT. So once there is a way for students to be able to test again, SAT is going to increase the number of testing each month. So instead of having like one test a month, they're looking at offering testing every weekend for the fall, if that's something that they're able to do, like, you know, if we're able to safely be able to do that. But as Quentin pointed out, a lot of schools are moving away from testing. They're going to testing optional or no testing at all. So that is definitely something that's taking place. And then also too, I know some schools are offering like discounted classes too. So that may be something that students can look into. Because they're offering some of those, since there's not, some of the classes are not face-to-face. Not a lot of schools are doing that, but some schools are. But I think the situation is just so fluid that, you know, things change all the time. And so something that's in place today may not be in place a few weeks from now. But the most steady thing I've heard has been more the testing, and that being optional or not required because of COVID.
Okay. So I think that we've had a pretty well-rounded and full discussion with a lot of information. Are there just any other kind of last remarks that anyone would want to make? I know I didn't have any follow-up questions for you, Lauren. I don't know if there's any last remarks that you would want to make, or any lasting statements, tips, or advice that you want to provide to students.
My biggest thing that I would have for students is don't be shy to call your university and ask questions up until the time that it's time for you to go off to school in August. That was one of my biggest things, like being afraid to call, like, oh, I have this question. I'm going to try to figure it out myself. I'm going to ask other students. Do not be afraid to call. It could be the smallest thing. It doesn't matter if you're calling them every day, whatever it takes to help you get ready for school in August, call the university and don't be afraid.
Lauren, can I ask you a question? What are some things that because you mentioned earlier about, not getting, like, wanting more information about scholarships. What do you think is a good way for, like, admissions counselors, high school counselors? Like, what's a good way for us to get that information out to students? Like, what do you think is a good way to deliver that, to make sure that you know about it?
I would just say, like, including it in morning announcements, having more posters around school. And the high school I went to, I went to Plainfield East. We had a special room that was, like, dedicated just to college decisions, like where we went to apply, all that stuff, like, was all in one computer lab. And so one thing that they did not talk about was cost, scholarships, FAFSA. So if at the school that you work for, if it's possible to if you guys have that type of setup, if it's just possible to really push, like, hey, go on these websites, make sure you guys are turning your FAFSA, like, make it a bigger deal than what it's being given off as, because school can be very expensive. Yeah. And a lot of kids don't know that, especially kids that are going out of state. Out of state is ridiculous. It is crazy. And kids don't know that, like, this is the amount that you're paying every year for the next 4 years that you're in school. So if it's just possible to really, like, push that FAFSA and scholarships are very important, and having that FAFSA in time with the right information is very important. That would be, like, my biggest thing, like, really push that issue on children, because my school was not very big on that. It was just like, hey, you know what you know. We only tell you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other last comments before we wrap up? I will ask Quentin, for the student who may be watching who is actually interested in NIU, how can they best get in touch with an admissions professional or yourself there?
Absolutely. So I'll do both. I'll wrap them into one another. If you're interested in NIU, go to niu.edu, the Office of Admission webpage. You'll see our tab. It's one of the first ones on the homepage. You can email admissions@niu.edu, and that's admissions, plural, that's at the end, admissions@niu.edu. And any of my staff members will figure out who you are, will connect you specifically with the admission counselor that works with your community, your particular high schools. And we'll be glad, again, just to give you whatever information is helpful. It's not you coming to NIU or not. We certainly hope that you're excited about the information that we share and you want to know more, but we're giving out information because we want to put you in the best position. The last thing I would say, just in closing, I always think there's 3 questions that can be really helpful. And again, I was a first-generation college student, so I didn't know how to do this stuff at 17, right? I learned the hard way. But 3 things now I can look back and say are helpful. Now, who do you want to become? And then what is it going to take to get you there? If you really spend time with those questions in your college search, you'll make a great choice. There's not one institution that fits you. There's not 2 institutions that fit you, and there's not 5. Institutions are not going to get you $1 million when you graduate and guarantee that you have a job and a happy life for the rest of your life. You're not going to love every professor you have. You're not going to go to a campus and be best friends with all 20,000 students on any campus or 1,000 on a campus. So it's really about who you are now, who you want to become in the future, and then asking the big question of what will it take to get me there? If you do those 3 things and you're honest, you're going to have a great, successful experience. You're going to have some challenges and some adversity, but you'll absolutely get through it. And the last thing I'd say, write stuff down. If I told you all, I lost $1 billion, I buried it somewhere in Plainfield, right? I buried it somewhere on the west side of Joliet. and I told you where that coordinate was, you would write that down. You wouldn't just listen to it and say, oh yeah, that's good information, got it. You would get out a pen, paper, your cell phone, bookmark it, take a photo of it, send it to yourself in email, text it to other people so they can text it back to you and save it in your phone. You would do everything possible. And I'll tell you, we are destroyed by a lack of knowledge. And knowledge, if it's not written down, is lost resources and lost opportunity. So take the opportunity really to be diligent and write this valuable information down. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
And apply, 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 apply. Don't be afraid to apply. Even if you think you're not going to get in, apply.
Awesome. Awesome. And I will add, try to apply by the early admissions.
Yes.
I am always a proponent of getting those applications in as soon as possible. Lauren mentioned completing the FAFSA as early as possible, but also get your applications in as early as possible. If I have not answered questions, I've tried to look online a little bit on Facebook and on YouTube. If I did not get to your questions, I will continue to look at those questions, and any questions that I have, I may reach out to our presenters to ask for their expertise. But people who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can contact the Kappa Mu Omega chapter, and we will be happy to help students through the college admissions process. We are here to help you. We are all college educated women. And this program that we have, #CAP, every chapter internationally is fulfilling the task of helping students get through the meticulous, tedious college admissions process. And so we are here to support and serve you. This has been a wonderful discussion. I think I've said that multiple times. I again would like to thank Yvette, Quentin, and Lauren for joining me and giving all of their, substantive advice and tips that we can utilize and that students and their families can utilize as they move forward. Again, I want to thank Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for presenting their signature program, #CAP, and the local Kappa Mu Omega chapter for also co-collaborating with the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church in order to host this discussion. And a sincere, invaluable thank you to Pastor Martin for making this all possible and bringing this discussion together and pushing me to host this discussion. So also thank you to the Mount Olive Church family and everybody who has tuned in. I appreciated leading this discussion, and I hope that it was beneficial for everyone. It will continue to be on YouTube and Facebook, so feel free to share it even after the fact with someone else who may need this information. So God bless everyone, and thank you so much, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.